Okay, it finally stopped raining because we are in rainy season here in Bali. And the moment you get way too excited about the sun, it starts pouring rain like crazy. So I've been waiting the whole day to be able to record this part of the video. Give me a second. Okay, perfect. So that sequence you've just seen, I recorded it with my iPhone 15 Pro, and I didn't even use the famous profile Apple ProRes. It's way, way better, so you can use it. But by the time I didn't have space on my iPhone, and also my SSD drives are very full, so I did it in the easiest way possible to show you that even if you don't have an iPhone or that kind of profile, you can still record amazing footage of yourself and make it look cinematic. I'm going to show you the gear you need, which is the very minimum, and it's ideal if you don't want to invest in huge cameras and huge lenses. I'm going to show you as well how to keep a cinematic feeling on your videos so they stand out and look professional. And towards the end of the video, I'm gonna give you bonus tips to improve that footage, because when you record with the phone, everything looks so sharp and I personally hate it. I don't like it. So I'm going to teach you some useful tricks for you to improve that footage even more in post-production. What makes a shot look cinematic? There are a few aspects, but the main ones would be framing, how you frame your subject, lighting, this is super important, and also the most important thing, at least for me, is movement, camera movement. But if you are a solo creator, it's very hard to create movement in the shots. And that's why I'm very excited to show you the gear I used, because it's going to be super good if you are filming by yourself. So the first thing you need is your phone, whichever that may be. You don't need an iPhone, okay? Any phone nowadays, it's very good. So you just need your phone and you don't need fancy profiles. If you can, again, Apple ProRes, it's incredible. It's very, very good. It's totally worth it. But as you saw in the first sequence, the quality is not bad and I recorded it in the normal profile, okay? And the second piece of gear I want to talk about today is a gimbal. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't like gimbals, okay? I don't like gimbals. I always refuse to use them. But when it comes to gimbals to use with your phone, not with a camera like I use, it's another story. And what I like about this gimbal is that it has AI tracking. That's how I managed to create movement in all my shots, because it has 360 degrees tracking. So basically it follows you everywhere. And this is going to be super good because it's like having like a small cameraman with you. This gimbal is the Hohem iSteady M7. And it has also a remote control. So for solo filmmaking, it's amazing because it has a 1.4 inches touch screen and you can control the gimbal from the distance. So you can frame yourself and you can see yourself in the screen. So you can even take photos as well, not just video. So that's what makes this gimbal special. And you don't need Bluetooth either. I mean, nowadays every phone has Bluetooth, but you don't have the app, you don't want to download it, and you don't want to connect Bluetooth for whichever reason. This gimbal has this AI tracker that you can switch around as well. And it's going to track you and it's going to give you live view in your remote control. The AI tracker has also a built-in RGB light, so it's very good as a field light. I don't think I'm going to use it personally because you should care about all the lighting around you and try to avoid to use this one, but many times at night, maybe it's going to be very useful. So that's another tiny thing I like. But another thing I used a lot for my sequence, it's the extendable pole that this gimbal has built in, because you can create low angle shots and high angle shots. It's going to give you a lot of flexibility when you just want to record with it and reach other areas of your scene. I'm not gonna get into it, but obviously you have all the modes possible in your gimbal, like any other gimbal. But I wanted to tell you about the AI tracking and the extendable pole to record yourself. As a solo filmmaker, this is gonna be very good, but I'm gonna explain how I did it in the sequence I recorded, so you learn as well how to create a sequence. There are a few basic rules I want you to follow, and even more if you are a beginner. When you are telling a story, this is very important. You have to create a story with your sequence. You have to use different shots. So think always about wide shot, medium shot, and close-up. The wide shot is the establishing shot. It's the one I used to open the sequence, which is my villa here in Bali. So you know already everything about my space and where the subject it's going to be. This is a way to start the story. The next shot is just me coming out from my villa. and going towards the sofa. And notice here how I used a medium shot and then a close-up. If you are using wide shots all the time, it's not cinematic. The most cinematic shots are the close-ups, at least in my opinion, but you have to use a mix of wide, medium, and close-up. And I want you to think about actions and cut in the action, like when I close the door or when I sit down in the sofa, because this way of editing is gonna make everything more fluid. And to achieve these shots, you saw the movement, it's incredible. It looks super nice. The first shot, I recorded it using the extension pole because I was able to be more flexible, create more movement, and stretch my arm way more because I was reaching farther. So I created like a beautiful slow motion at 60 frames per second. I also used the extension pole to create these shots going through the plants and lifting it up. You can carry on forward and you can make it look like a drone shot as well. So the extension pole is very good. And then one of my hero shots, let's say, it's when the gimbal is actually following me. With the remote control, I was able to frame myself in the distance because I have live view. I'm seeing what the camera is seeing, and then dragging a tiny square around me in the touch screen, the AI tracker kept track of me when I was walking. You can start and carry on recording with gestures. I don't use it because I use the remote control, but for example, to stop it comes quite handy because the remote control goes to my pocket so you don't see it in frame. So I think this is insane. It's how I managed to record the whole sequence in a cinematic way, creative movement, without any help from anyone, just the AI tracker. And now I'm going to show you the bonus tips for you to improve the footage coming out from a phone. The first one would be lifting the shadows a little bit and the blacks. You can do this in any editing software, so the image is not that contrasted. It looks terrible when there is a lot of contrast because the phone tends to oversharp everything. And another thing you can do as well is reduce the highlights a tiny bit, because many times you lose a lot of information in the highlights and more when you are not shooting in ProRes. So you can reduce a tiny bit the highlights. And something I love using, and I'm using right now, even if you cannot tell in this image too much, is a mist filter. I use mist filters. I think they look incredible because it softens the image, mostly the highlights, and I love using them because it makes everything look more cinematic. So you can buy a mist filter for your phone because the load capacity of this gimbal is 500 grams, so you have plenty of room to use lenses as well. But I'm gonna show you a tip which I used because I don't have a mist filter for my phone. I have it for all my lenses, my camera lenses, but not for my phone. There is a plugin I always use to color grade my videos, which is called the Enhancer. I use it in DaVinci Resolve, but it's available as well for Final Cut. And you can emulate any film you want with the Enhancer. You have Kodak, Fujifilm, you have many film stocks to choose from. And apart from being able as well to add realistic noise, you can also use the effect I used in this sequence, which is called Bloom. And Bloom basically fakes the mist filter effect. And what it does, it's blooming the highlights. This clip here, for instance, it was very sharp. So what I did is adding the bloom effect to soften the highlights. And now the image looks a little bit softer and less digital. I'm going to put the link below for the Enhancer for you to try it out for free to see if you like it. But this is a trick I always use when I want to create film effects on my footage and mostly in my travel vlogs as well. And another important tip to add movement in your footage is adding keyframes in post-production to create a fake zoom in and zoom out in the image. This is super good when you are recording yourself because many times you don't have movement with your camera, but you can do it in post-production. All you have to do is drop in a keyframe at the beginning of the clip and another one in the end, zoomed in or zoomed out, as you please. So for example, in the end clip of my intro, I did a zoom out effect with keyframes, and I think it looks very cool and very cinematic. So this is something you can do as well. Obviously, I'm going to put the link to the gimbal below. I think it's a very inexpensive piece of gear, considering that you are saving thousands on cameras, lenses, and other pieces of gear. So if you are a solo creator which uses just your phone, I think this gimbal is very useful for you to create cinematic videos. As you saw in the intro, you can create amazing videos using just your phone and the tips I told you today. So as usual, subscribe to my channel if you didn't yet and you want to keep learning on a weekly basis with me, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah. Big love from Bali.